Rebel Nation, how's it going? This is the Rebellion Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Staker. All right, definitely looking forward to recording this episode today as we got a lot of fun news in the UNLV basketball recruiting world in the last several days. Going to talk about that today. And it's that all too familiar time for Rebel fans where it's the best time of the year for us, right? Because we get excited about incoming recruits or anything that could give us a reason to be optimistic moving forward. And then, the season starts and it's a disaster and we're all depressed and angry. But that's not going to be the case this upcoming season, though. I mean, I'm telling myself that. I'm telling myself that we're done losing. It's over, okay? So we're going to talk a lot about my expectations for next year's team, go over the new players we got, and kind of also how to manage realistic expectations for what this program is and what this program can be. So we're gonna get into all that today. But first of all, got to give a shout out to our very own Vegas Golden Knights on a very big opening Game 1 win over the Minnesota Wild in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. So this is the time of year where I really, really stress out over watching VGK games. I handle it pretty well in the regular season. There's so many games and there's so many things that could happen. I don't get too nervous when I watch them, but that all changes come playoff time. Hockey is such a, God, that sport is just, whew. It's one of the most nerve-wracking sports to watch, without question. Just like in the blink of an eye, how fast the other team can score a goal, or like you could just miss something so quick, and just that feeling of when the other team's just firing away on your goal, and you're just freaking out every single time. It's like such a nerve-wracking sport. I remember when we won the cup, it felt like every series we won leading up to winning the cup, I got more and more nervous to where I would have anxiety leading up to the game. I don't want to be that way. I want to have excitement leading up to the game, right? That's not how it gets when I'm that nervous. I almost like don't look forward to the game. That's how nervous I am. But when you know how it goes, when you win, it's awesome. You're excited, celebrate. And then when you lose, it's, not fun. But we did get a big win, 4-2 over the Minnesota Wild. Hockey's so unpredictable. We have no idea what's going to happen. It's the most unpredictable sport of all the major sports, I feel like. Like, you have the Tampa Bay Lightning, I don't know how many years ago that was, where they had like the greatest record in the history of NHL, and then they got swept in the first round to the lowest seed, right? And like stuff like that just happens all the time in hockey. Like you just never know what's going to happen. It's not like NFL and NBA. Like usually you kind of know who's going to win in those matchups. At least compared to the NHL, you do. NHL, like everything's a coin toss. Every game, every series. So we'll see if our Knights can make a run, and I'm feeling optimistic that they will. Okay, so we have some new additions to the Runnin' Rebel men's basketball roster, and I'm going to talk about those. So first, Howie Fleming Jr. from Texas Rio Grande Valley. I talked about him in my last episode, how much I wanted him. And fortunately, about a day or two later, we got the news that he did commit on his visit. This is an underrated get because when you average typical fans, Google this guy or just they don't even Google him, they just scrolling through social media and they see his name and his stats and the school he went to, they're underwhelmed. Like, okay, we're getting a guy who's averaged 12 points per game at a small school. Like, that's nothing to be excited about. You got to look more deeply into the situation. So, first of all, does that player fit a need? What is that player's strengths? There's a lot of different variables to look at. Also, look at their season. Did they play well against the good teams? Did they only play well against bad teams and then struggle against the good teams? Did they start off the season hot and then as the season went on, they started to play less minutes and score less? And these are all things that matter in terms of like how good of a player this is that we're bringing in, right? And from everything I've read, learned, observed, we're getting a really good player with Howie Fleming Jr. I think he's I think he's pretty much a lock to start, not just because of his age and his experience, but just everything he brings to the table. We're getting a big guard, a big wing. Okay, he's 6'5", 220. Again, I've watched film on him, and he just looks big out there, and that's awesome. He's supposedly a good defender. I haven't broken down film yet. Again, I'm saving that for an episode where I go over the whole roster, and that's when I get really in depth with that sort of thing. But I have watched all his highlights. I've watched, other different clips of things that he can do, and I like that he can score in a variety of ways. He's a really good three-point shooter at 42%, but he also can post up. He knows how to use his size. If you look at his highlights, he has some really good post moves, some up and unders, some fakes, some mini hooks. So it's a guy that knows how to use his size, because there's nothing frustrating than having a big dude who just wants to launch threes, right? It's like, dude, get down there and score in the paint. You don't have to only shoot threes, even with the analytical era. So definitely a really good pickup. He is ridiculously efficient, meaning every single game he is consistent. He takes high quality shots. He's not going to be one of those players that, goes off one game and then the next game disappears. You know what you're going to get from him night in, night out. He's a very tough player. He plays hard. He just fits the mold of what Josh is trying to do here. So Josh is putting together a specific roster for specific reasons. I'm going to get more into that in a bit. So, yeah, Texas Rio Grande Valley, even though it's technically a small school, comparatively speaking to, some of these other big schools that we're competing with, they were a very solid team. Like, you look at the overall record, and they don't, jump out as a team that was any good, but if they actually started the season off really good, and all the teams they played that were big name schools, like ranked schools, they were like neck and neck. Like they barely lost. And then another really awesome thing about Fleming Jr. is that he got better as the season went on. All his best games were the last 11 games of the season, where he averaged nearly 17 points per game. And then he's also a really good rebounder. So we're getting a guard that can play 1, 2, or 3, that can shoot, is big, can defend. And, you can't really ask for too much better than that for what this team needs. Okay, next we have Isaac Williamson. So this one what was so interesting about this one, first of all, it came out of nowhere. Didn't even know we were recruiting him. Had never heard the name, which happens a lot now because, I used to go on RebelNet and, you would hear all the players that they're recruiting. But so we would always know all these players before they commit. Those days are over, though. RebelNet is useless now. So this guy was actually committed to our rival, New Mexico. And then when Patino left for Xavier, he decommitted, and then now we got him. So I love that. I love that we stole a player from New Mexico. And from everything I've read about him, I've read articles, I've watched videos of him speaking, I've watched a lot of highlights of him playing. This is one of those guys that could potentially be really good. He may not be a 4-star recruit, but he's a 3-star recruit that had a lot of big schools after him, and he fits what we're trying to do here at UNLV, what Passner wants to do, what he wants to implement. He's a very tough player who's not afraid of anyone, doesn't back down from anyone. He works extremely hard. He's a lights-out shooter. He has beautiful form on his jump shot. That was the first thing I noticed when watching his film, is Isaac Williamson has beautiful-looking jumper. So he's also fits a need as a true point guard, which is a player that we did need prior to his commitment. So I don't know how much of a role he will play this upcoming season. He could be buried at the end of the bench. He could be our starting point guard. We don't know yet. It's hard to say sometimes with these incoming freshmen. So hopefully he's a diamond in the rough, Pat McCaw type of player. But then big school just come along and offer him money we can't compete with and steal him. But again, good problem to have, I'd say. And then yesterday we got some really big news, landing Laji Dembele from Iowa. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. I was looking up YouTube videos trying to hear someone say his name so I know how to pronounce it, but I couldn't find it. So it's Ladji. So I'm just gonna say like Laji or Lage. Dembele. He is, if I'm not mistaken, the brother of former rebel Chekna Dembele. So yeah, there's that connection there. And this is a huge get for us, okay? Because he's a really big dude, first of all. He's 6'8", 260, so he's like the size of LeBron James. And he looks like a tank out there. He's got these big, muscular legs. He kind of looks like Rob Whaley. Can't talk today. Except for instead of like chubby looking, he looks just muscular and strong. It's that like African DNA where those guys just grow up just lifting heavy rocks and they're just strong dudes, right? And what makes him such a intriguing prospect and a really big get for us. First of all, he's young. He was only a sophomore. But the fact that he found his way into the rotation his freshman and sophomore year and his minutes continued to go up, that says a lot about a player, especially a player who is supposed to be one of those raw players that like have a lot to work on. They have a lot of improving to do. He managed to get into the rotation because he's someone that plays hard. He plays excellent defense. He's relentless on the boards. He's a very good offensive rebounder. And he has a lot of work to do in terms of like his offensive abilities, but he can shoot the three. He has a good-looking form on his jump shot. He shot 38% at Iowa. Now, he didn't take a lot of threes. He usually would only take about 1 or 2 a game. But based on his percentage and the way, how confident he looks when he does shoot, he's just someone who he just knows when and when not to shoot. He picks the right moments. So if he gets a bigger role on this team, which I expect him to, I expect his minutes to go up to about 30 minutes per game. He's going to be a major contributor on next season's team. So I think with that increased role and experience and the confidence that he's going to be given, I do anticipate he's going to shoot more threes, which I hope he does. If he can maintain that 38% to 40% shooting percentage, that is huge. To get a 3-and-D power forward who's so massive that they can guard the opposing team's center, they can guard the opposing team's best post player, and they can also step out on the opposite end and stretch the defense so we could play 4 out 1 in. Oh my God, that's massive. So he's like almost exactly what we needed. Before his commitment, I was saying what this team needs the most is like a power forward who's strong, athletic, defensive-minded, tough, who can start at the 4, but also he's big and strong enough to play the 5 if need be, has some skill, right? So it's not just like we're starting 2 centers. It's a forward that has some skill, can dribble a little bit, pass a little bit. That's exactly what we needed, and I would say Dembele's like 90% of that. So this is a massive pickup for Coach Pazner, and Rebel Nation should be excited for this one. Don't look at the 4.5 points, 3.5 rebounds, and be like, there's nothing exciting about that. Because he not only does he fit a need, but this is a guy that has potential to get way better, okay? Because he came in raw with no expectations that he was going to get playing time. And yet he managed to get playing time because he picked up the game that quick. And he's an amazing person from everything I'm gathering. He goes back to his home country, and he brings the kids basketball gear and other like supplies and books and just does so much for his home country. And this is the type of player that we need at UNLV to set an example. So awesome pickup for the Rebels. He's also, well, I'm gonna talk about this more. I have a bullet point where I talk about this, but he's actually the highest ranked transfer we have so far, but we'll get into that. So those are our 3 new players we have coming in. Let's take a look at the roster, how it looks now, the players that left and the players that are staying and the players that are coming in. So starting off with the turnover, so the last year's players, Dedon Thomas Jr. to LSU, Jaden Henley to Grand Canyon, which by the way, I was impressed with Jaden Henley because I think that was an awesome decision. So Jaden Henley is ranked fairly high in the 247 transfer portal rankings. He's ranked like 112 or somewhere around there. That's really good because he did finish off the season for UNLV as, I would argue, our best player. So he went to Grand Canyon when he could have gone to like some bigger schools, USC level schools, some power conference schools. But instead, he went to a really, really good mid-major that has awesome fan support. He's going to start there and be one of their key guys and have a really good chance of going to the NCAA tournament. Whereas if he would have chose, let's say, USC, then he's competing with like 5-star recruits for playing time. He could find himself out of the rotation or just not getting big minutes. So I think he made a really smart decision by going to Grand Canyon. I wish we could have kept him. He was the guy I wanted to keep the most. I wouldn't say more than DJ Thomas, but after I already knew DJ wasn't coming back, Henley was the one that I was like, he could really help us next season. And then Brooklyn Hicks still in the portal. I don't anticipate him going to a big name school. I'd be pretty surprised. I do think he's better than his stats suggest, but the fact that he's a guard that shot 18% from three and 50% from the free throw line, I just don't think a lot of fan bases would be too excited to get Hicks, though he is better than his stats suggest. He plays with a lot of energy and he has a high motor, and that's the type of player that, fans love to watch. Okay, Bear Cherry, Sacramento State. Again, I think that was a good decision. I think that's a place where he should start at center. He probably had options to go to higher level programs, but again, that's just more competition for playing time. So that was a really good decision by Cherry. And then Isaiah Cottrell's going to Southern Utah. Also a really good decision. Hopefully he can be the starting center. He has 1 year left of eligibility. It feels like Cottrell's been in college for 15 years. So he can hopefully be the starting center at Southern Utah and just go out with a bang, have a good season. Who knows? Maybe get Southern Utah to the tournament and win their conference. Jace Whiting going to Weber State. Again, he's from Utah. I think this is a perfect landing for him. Rob Whaley Jr., we don't know yet. That'll be interesting to see where he goes. I do think Rob Whaley will end up at a pretty good school, a good program. Jalen Bedford, same. He's a really good offensive player. He's someone that I'm very curious about because I wanted him back, and I kind of already put him in that starting shooting guard spot, like if he came back, whereas I'm pretty sure he wouldn't start. Now, granted, he could win that starting job if we had him on this team, just kill it in practice, but I'm pretty sure he wouldn't start for us next season. So I think he made the right decision to leave. So it'll be interesting where he ends up. And then Papa Njai, again, Papa Njai, I think, was like a top 200, top 250 ranked player in the transfer portal. So he's considered a really good transfer. He's going to Xavier. So good pick up from Xavier. Okay, and then the players we have coming in, of course, Dre Gibbs Lawhorn. I talked about him a lot in the last episode. Emmanuel Stephen, very excited about him. To start alongside with Dembele, I mean, that is defensively, they should be able to dominate the Mountain West defensively. We have one guy who's big and strong, and he's going to box you out. He's going to frustrate you with his physicality. And then we have a 7-footer to, block and alter shots and who's athletic, can run the floor. Our front court next year should be very, very much improved on the defensive end. Okay, and then Al Green, shooter from Louisiana Tech, talked about him last episode. Fleming Jr., of course, and then Dembele. So really good job so far by Josh Pashner with the players he has coming in. So, which brings me to the next thing I want to talk about is expectations for this team. Well, I'll say this. Casual fans don't understand roster construction, okay? I've read in comments fans saying stuff like, I don't get what the big deal is about these recruits. They're just average players. Like, I don't know what people are excited about. Or that UNLV Rebel girl that everyone seems to hate so much. She looked at all our players coming in and was like, why didn't we just keep our former players? Like, just to bring in these guys. And I was like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. She really just said that. Well, first of all, these players are definitely better. If you take everything into account, just the production they've done, the ceiling they have, how much potential they have, all of that. But it's not just that. Like, casual fans that don't get it, they need to understand, like, it's not just about how good the players are, okay? Coaches are looking for specific types of players that fit their style and their philosophy. Coach Pazner is going after guys who are tough, can defend, and then can do something on the offensive end, whether it's shoot threes or score down low, or, you know, they're athletic and get to the rim. They can do something really good on offense, but then they're tough and they can defend. And he's also putting together a roster of guys that can run the court really well. There's going to be no slow dudes on this team because he's going to be all about playing awesome defense, creating turnovers, creating havoc, and then getting out and running. And then also guys that can get defensive rebounds, because that's another big part of running. It's not just playing great defense and getting steals and causing turnovers. It's defensive rebounds can start your break faster than when the other team makes a shot. Okay, so a big part of having a running team is a good rebounding team. So he's putting together players that can rebound really well. He's bringing in guards that can rebound, okay, and he's bringing in a lot of athletes. A couple of our players that he brought in, their literal strength is how good they are in the open court on a fast break, okay? Like Dre Gibbs-Longhorn, he was incredible in the fast break. One of those players, he's unstoppable because of how athletic he is. Okay, so there's a lot of different factors that coaches look at when they're bringing in players for next year's team. Now, if you're trying to compare the players we're getting with the Dave Rice players, you need to stop. If that's your reason for being underwhelmed because you remember the excitement of landing Anthony Bennett and Kem Birch, or Bryce DeJon-Jones, or any of these like really talented players with a lot of stars next to their name, Rashad Vaughn, Steven Zimmerman, you need to stop. Don't compare to those players. Those days are over. Those players cost way too much money. So look at it like this. When you're UNLV, you kind of have two types of players to go after. You can go after players that average 10 to 14 points per game at a smaller school, like Jalen Bedford, Jaden Henley type of players, Howie Fleming Jr., or you can get players that averaged 7 points or less at a big school. Okay, so Dembele, Dre Gibbs-Longhorn, players like that, Emmanuel Steven. Because if they put up big numbers at the big school, we can't afford them. Okay, so people need to stop like looking at the players we have coming in and being like, oh, there's nothing to be exciting about. You have to look at what these players can do, what their fit is. And this is also really important, what their ceiling is. We're bringing in players from big schools who have tons of potential. Dre Gibbs-Longhorn this guy's like, plays like Russell Westbrook. I'm not saying he's going to be Russell Westbrook, but he could blow up and be like a 16-point, 6 assist, 6 rebound type star player for us next year because he has the talent and the athleticism to do so. Okay, so there's a lot of factors. And Josh is bringing in guys who are young, who contributed to their previous team, and have a lot of room to grow. He's not bringing in 23-year-olds who have just maxed out their potential. Though I would say Howie Fleming Jr. might fall into that category. He's probably as good as he's going to be. But that's not a bad thing. We at least know what we're getting with him. Whereas you bring in these young guys with all these potential, it's exciting because you don't know. They could blow up, you know? And I just love that we're going to have a lot of underclassmen on next year's roster. So expectations for next season, we need to keep them reasonable, okay? I will say, though, without knowing the rest of the players we're going to add to this team, because we have, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 more players we're bringing in. Based on who we have right now on the roster, on paper, this team will be good. Will be good and as far as what we want them to be, which is a team that finishes at the top of the Mountain West Conference and gets an at-large bid. On paper, this team will be that good. When I say on paper, I don't just mean the players, I mean our coach as well. Because I don't know why so many fans were against Pazner when we hired him, including myself. I wasn't excited when we first got the news. But on paper, in terms of resume, this is the 3rd best coach we've ever had, in my opinion. Like, what other coach? Although I guess Massimino, he did accomplish a lot before getting to UNLV, to be fair. But I since then, this is easily the 3rd best, 2nd best coach we've had since then. behind Lon Kruger. I mean, the guy won Power Conference Coach of the Year twice. He won the ACC. So, and he came from a school that's very hard to win at. Okay, Georgia Tech is like the Oregon State of the ACC. It's very hard to win there. So I've never seen a coach win fans over so quickly. The 180 that happened from when he was hired till just a week later, the 180 flip reverse of how excited fans are for this coach when they weren't when we first got the news. I've never seen it like this before. So it's it's just fun to talk about. It's fun to think about. However, all that being said, we have to manage expectations going into next season. I'm not gonna say we're gonna be awesome, we're gonna win the conference, we're gonna get a high seed. I'm not. That's just, when you've been bad for like 10, 11 straight years, you just sound silly saying that. So I'm saying we should be good next year, and on paper we will be good next year. But I just released a project, a story of the history of UNLV basketball and why we're cursed and why bad things keep happening to us fans. So if we suck next year and we suck the year after that, again, that's just the curse, right? So I'm all over the place. This was supposed to be more organized, but where are we at on my notes here? Strength and weaknesses of roster. Okay, so just based on the players we have right now, the roster we have right now, I would say the pros are, first is athleticism. We have a lot of athletic players, a lot of players that run the court really well. And I think part of what Pazner was looking at when he was looking at the players we had on the roster last year, the incoming recruits we have, he really wanted to bring in players that can run and players that can defend. And so the players that left were not good defensive players. And I think that's why they hit the portal. I truly believe that. So there was other players that I totally skipped over that are returning. I need to talk about them real quick. So James Evans, again, excited to see what he could become this year. Very athletic. Again, that's why Pazner wanted him back. This is a type of guy that fits the need. He's tough, can run, athletic. Tyron Jones, of all the incoming freshmen we have, this is the guy that Tyron Jones might have the most NBA potential on the roster. Okay? He is 6'8", 6'9", long, really athletic. Go watch his highlights. The guy is a very good athlete. Okay? And he's going to be awesome in a fast break. So I expect him to be firmly in the rotation with a decent chance to start. Now, it's kind of hard to see him starting over Dembele. Dembele was a starter for a Big Ten team. But I could see him either starting at the 3 alongside Emmanuel Steven and Dembele, or I could see it. Let's say Emmanuel Steven isn't quite ready yet to take on that role as the starting center. I could see us starting Dembele and Tyron Jones as in the front court. But yeah, very excited about Tyron Jones. I would say he has the most NBA potential on the team. Okay, because if he can develop an outside shot to go with his athleticism and size, I mean, that right there is what the NBA scouts drool over. A tall, long, athletic wing. Okay, those are the players that can shoot threes. Those are the players that every single roster wants. Okay, so we also have Mason Abaton. I did not talk about him in the last episode. I didn't mean to skip over him, and I haven't really talked about him enough. This is another really good pickup. This is a guy that a lot of big schools wanted. He's very, very skilled. He can do almost anything on the offensive end. He's very good at catching and shooting threes. He can shoot with a hand in his face. He can shoot in a variety of ways. Post up. He can, step backs, fadeaways. He can pass, dribble. Very, very skilled on the offensive end. I think athleticism is the reason why he's not maybe like a top 50 recruit, top 80 recruit. He doesn't look super athletic, at least in terms of jumping, explosive movements. He doesn't look extremely athletic in the film that I have watched of him. But again, another guy that is skilled and can score and is tall. This team has big wings. And if we land, what's his name? Jaden Brewer. If we land Jaden Brewer, another tall guard, very, very athletic, explosive, then that's another tall guard / wing that we have on this team. And that is what separates the power conference schools from like Mountain West level schools, is big guards and big wings. Okay, having a 6'6" shooting guard, a 6'7", 6'8" small forward, or if they're not tall, like they're strong and they're heavy, so they can, like Luis Rodriguez. He was a really good small forward because he was athletic, strong, very good defensively. If he was better offensively, he could have played for any team in the country. So yeah, definitely excited for Mason Abaton. I love all three of these freshmen we have coming in. Absolutely love them and their potential. They already have skill going for them. So they are someone who can contribute right away, especially with their ability to shoot the ball. So many shooters on this roster, so many shooters, and it's exciting. I tweeted about this, that this team is, if you're into analytics and you're someone who's a fan of analytics, then you're going to be really happy with this roster, because we have a very analytically friendly roster, which means we have guys that can shoot, guys that can get to the rim, and guys that can make free throws. And if you don't know what analytics is, I don't have time to like go all into it, but basically it's in a nutshell, it's taking the highest quality shots and taking the most of them you can over the course of 40 minutes, which giving your team an opportunity to score more points. So in an analytical-based offense, a three-pointer is considered a really good shot because you get 3 points instead of 2. However, your odds of making a three-pointer are about as good or a little bit less than the odds of making a long 2. So analytics hates long 2s, but they love layups and they love free throws. So analytics is, you like threes, you love layups, and you love free throws. And this roster is built perfectly for that. So, yeah, just wanted to throw that in there. Let's see, what else have I not covered? Oh, yeah, so Jacob Benarbi, again, talked about him a lot in the last episode. Again, another big body that can play the 4 or the 5. He's skilled. I'd like to see him make a big jump this year and get into the rotation. So we have a few spots left. What I would like to see... Oh, yeah, so all of what I said goes along with the pros of the roster. So now the cons. Another con of the roster is we don't have players that have experience playing together. We don't have players that have experience playing for Coach Pasner, okay? And the next con I would say is passing. We don't have any players that averaged a lot of assists at their previous school. So hopefully Williamson can be that true point guard that can shoot threes and get assists, because that's, extremely valuable, right? And then also Dre Gibbs Lawhorn. I think a lot of how successful we are next season is going to depend on him and Emmanuel Stephen. Emmanuel Stephen is the guy that has maybe the highest ceiling, being an athletic 7-footer. And then Dre Gibbs Lawhorn also has one of the highest ceilings because he's a freak athlete who's tough and confident and fits exactly what we need. Now, if he can become more of a true point guard, because his role at Illinois was more of a guy that just can come in off the bench and play really good defense, get out on a fast break, maybe get an exciting dunk to get the fans into it. He's going to have a new role in UNLV. He's have to be more of a leader, run an offense. If he can use that athleticism to get to the rim and find guys open and then become more of that true point guard that we need, that would be huge. So, yeah, we need passing. And then lastly, I would say is we don't know yet. I wouldn't say this is necessarily a con, but we don't know yet if we have some legit go-to players. And what I mean by that is guys who are very good at shot creation. Last year, we knew we had Rob Whaley, who was a guy that you can give the ball to in the post, and depending on who's guarding him, he's going to get fouled or he's going to score. And then we had DJ Thomas, who we know is a really good player, a really good playmaker that we could give the ball to. So this year's roster, we're not entirely sure yet if we're going to have that go-to guy in a close game, against Boise, 68-60, a minute left. Who are we giving the ball to? We don't know that yet. So that's another thing that's remained to be seen. But again, we don't know who we are adding to this roster. With the remaining spots, I think we need to bring in a center. Maybe a guy who's like 23-year-old. He's in his like 5th or 6th year. He's going to be great in practice. He's a big body to throw at teams. Maybe like 6'11", 260. I think who isn't like super slow. I think a guy like that would be a good fit. And then I would say bring in another point guard and then another wing. Okay, and then I would love to see that last wing position go to Jaden Brewer. Okay, I'm still really hoping we get Jaden. Jaden Brewer made a tweet a few days ago, and if you don't know who Jaden Brewer is, he's from Florida Atlantic, 6'6" guard, has like a 40-something inch vertical, very, very, very athletic. Not a great shooter, but can get to the rim. He tweeted the other day something that I took it as like times going by, like who am I going to pick, like kind of one of those cryptic type of posts, right? And then I went to the comments section, and there was like 15 comments total, and 14 of them was all UNLV fans. And so I'm like, come on, dude, go to UNLV. We clearly want you more than the other schools just based off of this. So I really hope we get him, because that just gives us more depth, more talent, more players that can do a lot of things in that guard / wing forward position. So yeah, really hope we can land him. Okay, I think that is everything I wanted to go over. I apologize again. This podcast was all over the place. I didn't go in order of the things that I wanted to go in. But yeah, I still said everything I wanted to talk about. Last thing I want to go over and talk and discuss, and then I'm going to wrap this up, is that just unbelievable, hilarious, what the F situation with that Tennessee player, quarterback, Nico Iamaleava. However you say his last name. So this is just, if you're someone like me that just hates what college basketball has turned into, as far as every single team hitting the reset button at the end of the season, all of players jumping into the portal, every player is a free agent each year. The fact there's no cap, that they're paying players $4, $5, $6 million to play there. All these problems with it. There's a long list of issues with it. It's so satisfying for people like me that hate this to see a guy like him, who allegedly his dad was driving all of this. His dad is to blame for all this. Demand more money at Tennessee. He was already making over $2 million. A guy who's nowhere even close to guaranteed to be like an NFL quarterback. He's already making that much money. Wants $4 million, which you are not worth $4 million. You're not as good as the other quarterbacks that are making that kind of money. Wants $4 million. Tennessee stood their ground and said, no, we aren't paying you that kind of money. We want players that want to be here and aren't going to be greedy over money. Okay, so they stand their ground. He leaves. He wants $4 million, so he wants school to offer him $4 million. He's like, all right, I'm available. Who's going to offer me this money? Crickets. Nothing. And it's just so satisfying that there's consequences to this greed. There's karma to this way of thinking where you put money over everything, right? Ends up going to UCLA, getting far less money than he wanted. Less money that he was getting at Tennessee. So extremely satisfying. He's going to play against UNLV next year. It will be that much more satisfying if UNLV can beat UCLA and beat Nico. So satisfying. Even though, again, it's the dad's fault. It's not his fault. And I want to rant about something real quick, and then we're done. This situation seems very similar to Matthew Sluka's situation. Not entirely the same, but very similar. Okay. But the difference is Matthew Sluka was the media and fans and everything was on his side, and UNLV was getting demonized And people were crapping all over this. Idiots in the media that have no idea what the truth is, no idea what actually goes on behind the scenes in the UNLV football program, bashing UNLV, talking. I'm still, to this day, pissed off about it because we had this player demand more money. He wasn't promised more money. And I'm not going to go into that whole thing again, but I do not believe for a second that he was promised the money he wanted. I think that this is just what the college sports is turning into. So UNLV stands their ground, says, no, we're not giving you that money. We don't give in to demands. We're not running that type of program here. Okay. We have another quarterback who will gladly want this job, who's not going to demand more money. But UNLV wasn't getting praised like Tennessee is. And that's a world we live in where the rich and the powerful get glorified and no one wants to attack them. But then you have the little guy. Well, I wouldn't say UNLV's a little guy. We're the smaller guy. We get attacked and vilified and destroyed because Matthew Sluka wanted more money. But then when this dude leaves Tennessee, everyone's against the player and on Tennessee's side. It's like, really? Is that like, are you really? All right, Rebel fans, if you made it, wow, 43 minutes. If you made it this far, listening to my rambling and my just all over the place lack of organization, but I love this team to death. I'm excited. We have so much more to look forward to. I can't wait to see what other players we add to this roster. Josh is doing an awesome job so far, and we all should be very optimistic moving forward. Okay, Rebel fans, till next time.